This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com. The only place to be in your pop culture world.
Hey yo, there's no chance in hell. You wanna take what's mine, you're just too frail. Hey yo, there's no chance in hell. You wanna take what's mine, you're just too frail. Hey yo, there's no chance in hell. You wanna take what's mine, you're just too frail. Are you ready
Place to Be
for war?
Nation?
Bring it on.
Welcome to another podcast journey on the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed. It is called the Nation Invasion, and I am your host, James Gruenberg. We will get into why it's called Nation Invasion just in a quick short minute, but first, let me introduce to you my guest here with me tonight. He's the host of the Ruthlessly Aggressive podcast on the North-South Connection feed, Mr. Jacob Williams. Jake, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, Gruney. I'm happy to join you on this excursion on this very first episode, man.
Yeah, thank you for being my first guest. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. Well, not really for like a long time, but everyone has their chapters of pro wrestling that they're covering. The Monday Night Wars, the Wrestling War Zone on the North-South Connection. They have the Monday Night War feed. Extreme Three-Way Dance has ECW in the 90s. And you have the Ruthlessly Aggressive podcast, which starts off in 2002 with the Ruthless Aggression era, after WrestleMania 18. So I felt, what's another era besides, ECW on Sci-Fi that I can cover? And it really just stuck out to me that I can do the invasion angle. Now, Jake, when you hear of the invasion angle, what is the first thing that comes to mind?
So, obviously, it's something that's not looked on very fondly as far as, it's considered one of the most botched angles ever. But honestly, it's an interesting concept, Gruney, because, I know the broad strokes of it, but, the nitty-gritty, it's a little fuzzy for me. I haven't gone back and watched all this in detail, all the TV, the Raws and Smackdowns, where you plan to do. So I think it'll be interesting, like it is with all these, because with all these podcasts is that I think, most people, this is a super hot time in wrestling, people remember the invasion angle, but I don't know how much they remember the actual week-to-week in the detail of it. So it'll be cool to go through that. But, the number one thing, always, it's almost like a meme at this point, is that the invasion was a disaster. It's just looked at as this, botched angle. But we'll see how it goes as you go through it, man. You may realize that it's, maybe that holds up and maybe it doesn't. We'll see.
Yeah, so let's go back to 2000, March 26, 2001. That is the final WCW Nitro. Vince McMahon buys WCW, or he thinks, because in that same night, Shane McMahon says that he buys WCW. I wanted to do, instead of going back for all the way back in 2001, because that's still in the war zone time, the early months of 2001 are still in the war zone time, I figured, why not we just start with where the invasion really sort of begins and what we think we're getting an inkling of, what's going to happen, as we get into these, as we get on through these months here. Yeah, like we said, March 26, 2001 is the last WCW Nitro. They go to WrestleMania 17, and there were some WCW superstars in the crowd. Some of these WCW superstars have stated on the record that they were supposed to interfere in the Shane McMahon, Vince McMahon street fight, and they were going to stand tall with Shane McMahon at WrestleMania 17. However, one of the WCW superstars went on called in a radio show or spoke to someone who was writing one of those forum websites or just some wrestling, almost like a Wrestling Observer podcast or radio show, saying WCW superstars are going to be at WrestleMania 17, and we're going to be involved in the street fight, which canceled that because they got rid of that because that person opened up their mouth. It's Sean Stasiak, like he's the one who did it. That's what everyone said. Do you remember hearing a rumor about that, Jake?
I did not, but I don't think at the time I was quite in the know when it came to that thing, but that's certainly interesting. So I guess it was that the invasion were going to start like immediately, like at WrestleMania, right?
Yeah, like somewhere around there, like, just to like get like the voice across that, hey, WCW did not go away and we're coming to Monday Night Raw. Whether or not they would have continued on that next Raw, I don't think so, but it would have been cool if that's how they did it, By around like April, late April, like early May, Jim Ross is down in Atlanta. He's signing all WCW guys that he can get his hands on, and that Vince McMahon sort of wants in his invasion. Oh, like in this invasion angle, but everyone is thinking that it's going to be Hulk Hogan is coming back, Goldberg, Sting, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, the NWO. Those guys were on Time Warner contracts until almost the end of 2001. So they did not have to come to work because they were getting paid so much money. All they had to do, Jake, was really just sit at home, wait for the mailman to come, and they would collect their check and go back on the couch.
Right, exactly. And if the WWF wanted them, they would have to kind of buy that out, so not a lot of incentive for those guys to come and beat their bodies up.
Yeah, and also there were like talks of like, can we get a show on TNT again? Like, do you think they want wrestling on TNT? What can we do? And it looks like everything was not really going the way they wanted it to. I think they wanted to do like separate camps, have a WWF Raw on Mondays and have like a WCW show either on like, for SmackDown on Thursdays or something on Fridays, but the TV deals were not going to happen at all. So like, it did seem like everything was like not going the way that they wanted it to. So they were trying to make the best of a situation here.
Yes, right, exactly. And then as we'll get into on these shows, as things kind of get post-WrestleMania, there's another major happening that kind of throws a wrench in their plans post-WrestleMania.
Yeah, another thing that also I wanted to bring up about 2001. 2001 to me is like the equivalent of 1993. Now, bear with me, Jake, because in 1993, Hulk Hogan leaves and is saying that he is done with professional wrestling. In 2001, the Monday Night Wars is over. Vince McMahon needs new ideas to see what he's going to do because in 1993, he lost his Babe Ruth of professional wrestling. His number one star had left. There is no competition in the year 2001. So that is why it seems that it's a standalone year because in 1994, the new era would start with Bret Hart, Luger, Yokozuna was still around, Diesel and Michaels. And then in 2002 would start the ruthlessly aggressive era with, John Cena, Batista, and all those guys coming in too. So, and the brand split too. So that's why I think 2001 is like 1993. It's like, where do we go from here,
Right, exactly. Definitely a big transition point.
Uh-huh. So, before we dive into this show, I have one note. Like, I don't use the Wrestling Observer, Jake, but I know for a fact that this actually happened on the Memorial Day weekend. In Canada, Brian Christopher, also known as Brian Lawler, was pulled over in Canada by the Canadian police. He was charged with possession of drugs. On this very Monday night, he would be released by Jim Ross. Jim Ross sent Brian Christopher packing. So Brian Christopher, a.k.a. Brian Lawler, is gone from the WWF. At this time, Scotty 2 Hotty was out with an injury, and they were trying to like partner up Brian Christopher like with different like tags because Road Dogg was gone. So they tried, K Quick, which is Ron the Truth Killings, with Brian Christopher. And then most notably here, as we'll see, he's teaming up like with Steve Blackman here. So they were trying to do 2 new things with Brian Christopher, but Too Cool was gone here. Rikishi's on the outs as well, and Scotty 2 Hotty was out with an injury. So they were trying new things, and lo and behold, Brian Christopher got caught with drugs in his possession, crossing the border. So Jim Ross and Vince McMahon fired him. Your thoughts on this release here and your memories of Brian Christopher?
My memories of Brian Christopher. I remember him in Too Cool. I remember him in in the early days of the Cruiserweight deal, which was kind of a mess. But yeah, I mean, not shocking. Definitely not high on the totem pole. I do think it's funny him being released. We are going to see him on these episodes in a bit of a recap, so it is funny him being fired. We'll see what the final glimpse we're getting him in him with Steve Blackman and Trish in that little backstage segment. So that's kind of funny. That ends up being his last thing, but. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine a whole lot would have happened with him. Like you said, without the Too Cool thing, he's kind of left floundering anyway. So I don't think it was a tough decision for them to let him go.
Yeah, and he's sort of brought upon himself. I feel like he would have been gone in like the spring cleaning with all the WCW guys coming in now. So it's like, we made it. He made it easier on them to like let him go. It's like, oh, you committed a crime, so you're gone. It's like, all right, bye.
Right.
So now, Jake, let's dive into the show here. This is Monday Night Raw from May 28th, 2001. We're in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Funny how we're in Canada on Memorial Day. Like, it's not even in the United States. Like, it's in Canada. It's like, whose idea was this, really? Like, you don't want Memorial Day and like to be celebrated like on Raw in the United States. You really want to go to Canada, huh? It's like, yep, we do.
Yeah, very interesting. Kind of ironic. And but Vince will get his digs in honor of America, as we'll see.
Yeah. So we have a recap of the SmackDown from the previous week. That fatal 4-way TLC match for the tag titles as Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho retained those tag titles, beating the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, and Edge and Christian. As we'll see here tonight, there's still remnants of that TLC match because, all those guys in these 2 episodes are still really hurting from that match. That match was brutal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Benoit headbutt through the table that they showed was particularly nasty.
Yeah, and I think even Jim Ross said that, or Michael Cole, one of them said Christian got the worst of it, as we'll see here. So, yes. Mr. McMahon comes to the ring, says Canada has made him feel at home. He encourages other Americans to enjoy the hospitality, saying Canadians brought ice hockey and beer. So he's he's saying the D value of the dollar,
yes.
Just making fun of he's making all these funny Canadian jokes, the D value of a dollar, saying that Canadians are only good for ice hockey and beer.
I dug he also said the excess taxation was a good Vince line.
So then Chris Jericho comes out. Jericho's microphone's not working, but he says that he wants Stone Cold. He demands a match with Stone Cold for the WWF title tonight. Jericho tells Vince to shut the hell up and also says that Vince McMahon's hair is a toupee. Then he says Vince has created the 2 biggest sluts, Stephanie McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, calling Stone Cold a slut is quite a line.
Then Jericho plays a video of Vince at the 1987 Slammies singing Stand Back. I did not know that this was until a time later. This was the first time that video was shown. I only remember it in 2006 when the WWF, when DX played it on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, like it is cool to see it in this era. Like it's so like we see it all the time now because it's shown so much. But also, you got to think this is a time when you couldn't just find all this stuff anywhere you wanted. Like you couldn't just YouTube it or something. So whenever you did get the clips of this kind of stuff, it was sort of a big deal. So very funny, and just to see it contrasted with the Mr. McMahon character is always really fun. His reaction is great. Like because he's always so cocky and brash. So to see him actually get kind of embarrassed is kind of funny.
Yeah, it is. It's always funny to see him get embarrassed. So Vince McMahon announces that Chris Jericho tonight will face the Big Show for the hardcore title. Chris Benoit then comes out. So the tag team partner comes out. It's Chris Benoit. He comes out and he wants to challenge Stone Cold for the match, for the title. Vince gives Benoit Rhino tonight, but he announces that first you have to win the match or give the better performance. So Vince McMahon, after these two matches, will tell either Benoit or Jericho that they will have a title match tonight, depending on their performances in their respective matches here tonight. What do you think of this concept, Jake? If whoever has the better performance gets the title shot.
Yeah, to me, it makes sense. It's just kind of classic wrestling stuff, that they have to go through the heavies, like the henchmen, sort of, to be able to get to the big guy. And I did think it was shrewd, and we'll see this on both shows. They definitely are aware they're in Canada and using their two big Canadian baby faces, Jericho and Benoit, and kind of using them to their full, to their best potential here. So, just having them as the underdogs, having to face Big Show and Rhino and go through all this to see who's going to face Austin. I thought it was smart of them in Canada to go with this angle, to get the crowd behind these two guys and kind of make this the kind of show long angle. But it's classic, it's nothing groundbreaking, but it works. I mean, it works for a reason and also Benoit and Jericho are really locked in here. And you kind of want to see which one of them's going to get the title shot, and you kind of feel like you're going to get to see a title match with Austin. So I think all of this kind of works to drive the episode of Raw forward.
Yeah, it does. And, we're going to be seeing a lot of, Jericho and Benoit throughout these two episodes. And this really is a big shine to some of the, the next set of, talent that I feel that Vince McMahon wants, to go up against guys like Stone Cold and The Rock, and Triple H, that guys who are winning European and Intercontinental titles are finally getting their shine to step in the ring with Stone Cold for the WWF title here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It is. It's kind of it's like fresh matchups. I'm with you.
Yeah. So again, trying new things in 2001 when you don't have competition, and I think it's paying off very well.
Mm-hmm.
So Howard Finkel is in the ring, and he announces that Stu Hart and the Hart family are in attendance tonight, and we are in the Saddle Dome here in Calgary. Stu Hart gets a nice standing ovation. He looks good here in 2001.
Yeah, he looks as best as he could at his age. He's definitely, you could tell he's getting up there, right? He looks a little disheveled, a little disoriented, but yeah, he's still standing and kind of knows where he is. So good for Stu. And yeah, he gets a great ovation from the home crowd.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could spot a young Natalia or a teenager young Natalia, but I don't know if she was in the crowd that night. I was trying to see if I could see her there.
Right. I only saw the random guy who looked, I don't know who that was, with the long dark hair that looked kind of like a Great Value Brett. I did notice him next to Stu.
Yeah. So now we have the Hardy Boys versus X Factor. And I did not, starting off, this is the time when Eddie Guerrero was trying to be the Hardy Boys like best friend here, and he'll be out there with Lita as well as with X Factor. It's X-Pac and Just Incredible, but Albert will be in their corner. So Eddie Guerrero is basically just like tagging around with the Hardy Boys here as the Radicals whole thing seems to be done at this point.
Yeah, he seems a little bit like he's a little lost right now, and I know he would be gone pretty soon after. I think he's going to be out of the company. He's going to go on kind of his little hiatus, I think, pretty soon after this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, he looks a little lost in the shuffle right now, especially when you see, like Benoit is getting this kind of main event shine, and you just see Eddie kind of as the third wheel for the Hardy Boys. It's kind of odd.
Yeah, so Justin and Jeff start off. Tags to both Matt and X-Pac. X-Pac throws Matt to the floor. Frequent tags between both members of X Factor. So they're trying to, keep the fresh man in, and corner Matt out of the way from tagging in Jeff, so the fresh man comes in. Bronco Buster to Matt. Lita pulls X-Pac into the ring post. And then Matt Hardy gets the tag to Jeff. A poetry in motion to Just Incredible. He misses X-Pac. Eddie interferes to hold X Factor back. A Twist of Fate by Matt and the Swanton Bomb by Jeff for the win. I gave this match 2 stars. It was okay. It was good. A little on the shorthand, I think. And X Factor, I guess, really does to not get a whole lot of moves in, but they do a good double team work here. It's a fine match, so I gave it 2 stars.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I went 2.25. I thought the Hardy Boys looked good here. It's nice because in most of the podcasts I do, I'm at the point where Jeff Hardy is a disaster, a train wreck of a person. So it's cool to see him here a little bit, a few years earlier where he's still kind of, in his stride. So it's cool to see him moving well and looking like, prime Jeff Hardy, or at least, looking great. The Hardys look good. I thought it was just a quick match to put the Hardys over, but it was good, fast-paced, didn't overstay its welcome. And a Twist of Fate, Swanton, Hardys look good. Perfectly fine TV tag match.
Yep. So backstage we have Terry and Trish. I think they're spraying each other with spray tan, or they're arguing on who has more spray tan, who needs a spray tan, and they're discussing their tag team match tonight. So as it's going to be Terry and Perry Saturn versus Trish Stratus and Steve Blackman. Albert then barges into the Commissioner Regal's office, demanding a match with Eddie Guerrero tonight, and William Regal does give Albert the match. So tonight we will see Albert versus Eddie Guerrero as payback for interference. Mm-hmm. And now we have, so Albert here looking strong, and Albert seemed to be on the little bit of a right path to, being a big, tough guy here as well.
Yeah, and I love Regal and Tajiri too. That pairing, with especially Tajiri and his little business casual, his polo and his slacks was. I enjoy that pairing quite a bit.
Yeah, me too. It's only going to get better from here, obviously. So now we have Chris Benoit versus Rhino. And you can see here that. Let's point out that Benoit's ribs are heavily bandaged, so the remnants of the TLC 3 match are really coming into play here as Benoit's ribs are taped, which Rhino goes right after. Rhino goes after Benoit's ribs. Benoit applies the German suplexes, a crossface to Rhino, but he gets to the ropes. A gore by Rhino, but Benoit goes to the gets tackled to the outside, so it was a good move on him because Rhino cannot make the cover. A superplex to Rhino, a spine buster by Rhino. Rhino's gore gets countered into the crossface, and Rhino taps. I gave this matchup 2 3/4 stars, Jake. It's a very this one is a very great match too. Rhino going after the ribs, taking out Benoit's weak spots. A good move set by Benoit. Rhino with that good spine buster, and then like the finish was really good. Like the gore getting countered into the crossface.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. I went 3 on it. This match,
2 3/4 stars.
Yeah, so I went 3. I thought this match ripped. Like, it was just, they didn't waste any time. There was no feeling out. Just super physical right from the get go. Just throwing bombs at each other. Gores, the superplex, the Germans, all. It's like a 3 minute, like 3 to 4 minute blitz of just pure physicality. Like, and that's perfect for these two guys' style. Like, this is the exact match you want to see out of Rhino and Benoit. Like, I don't need Rhino doing mat work with Benoit. Just let them start fucking going at each other. And I'm with you. I thought the finish was fantastic with the gore, how he just slid him in there right on the ground and put the crossface in. Good win. Gets the crowd fired up for Benoit, hoping that that he. So we have they're so far 1 for 1 on their on the Vince Challenge matches. But yeah, I'm with you, Renee. I thought the match was awesome.
Yeah, it was really good. So now we have Trish Stratus and Steve Blackman versus Terry and Perry Saturn on SmackDown. SmackDown last week, May 24th, 2001. We would see Steve Blackman and Trish Stratus getting ready for a tag match on SmackDown, and like it's really funny. So like they're behind a curtain, and where Steve Blackman has his kendo stick, it's in a very particular position, and Grandmaster Sexy walks in, and he thinks that he sees something else.
His penis,
and
he believes he sees.
Yeah,
right?
he believes he's seeing something, and it's not really that. It's just really like Trish Stratus is grabbing Steve Blackman's kendo stick here. But like I said before, Jake, they were trying these new tag team combinations with some of the lower talent, and Brian Christopher here got the axe for getting busted with drugs. So now it's Trish Stratus and Steve Blackman versus Terry and Perry.
Right. So the last we see of him is thinking that he sees Steve Blackman's gigantic kendo stick penis.
Yes.
And that's his that's his curtain call.
Yeah. It's Brian Christopher's curtain call. So Perry Saturn's outfit here looks like he's going to a disco or like a really bad Hollywood premiere movie. What do you think of Perry Saturn's outfit here?
Yeah, he's all over the place, old Perry here. Yeah, he's he's always known for the interesting fashion in this era. So yeah, he's definitely got. I think he had like the fuzzy hat on, the multicolored facial hair, and then I also like just like I said to Jerry earlier, we also have you have Saturn who looks odd in all this random fashion, but then he's got Dean Malenko with him, who, like Tajiri, is in the business casual, like tucked in polo shirt, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. So we have a drop kick by Steve Blackman. He takes Perry off his feet. Really great karate maneuvers by Steve Blackman. You basically he takes Perry off his feet. Tags to the ladies. Terry bounces Trish off the ropes, throws Trish by the hair. A bulldog to Terry, which was really botched. Like Trish does not get a hold of Terry's head here. It looks like she slips, and Terry just has to fall down with her to make it look good. So really bad botch by Trish here. Terry, though, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm with you. You could tell Trish is not very smooth yet. And I didn't think Blackman and Saturn really on the top of their game either. That's from Gruney, but go ahead.
No, yeah. Terry jumps on Blackman only to get spanked by him. A spear by Trish, and that leads to a catfight on the outside between the two ladies. And here's where we get our first WCW invader. WCW's Lance Storm super kicks Perry Saturn, and Steve Blackman gets the cover. I liked how Lance Storm just comes out of the crowd and he just gives like a really huge super kick to Lance Storm. I mean to Perry Saturn here. Like I'm on the man who's leading, like he was invading first, and the super kick was awesome here. For the match, I went a star and a half. Not bad, but not good at all either. So, star and a half. It helps it with like the Lance Storm. Helps with the Lance Storm thing here too.
Yeah, that's pretty much what the purpose was, and I think honestly, just to get Trish and Terry out there, because to have the fans see them. Yeah, match. No, definitely no Matt Classic. I want to star and a half like you, Gruney. Like I said, there was like a weird spot before the uppercut by Steve Blackman. I don't know. They just all seemed out of sorts. It's kind of like they were just screwing around until Lance Storm came out. But yeah, the first taste of the invasion has come up with Lance Storm coming out here. So do you think it was strange that they had Storm come out in his gear? They didn't try and do like the classic NWO stuff. It's so hard not to compare it to NWO. And I don't think it matters that much, but they did have like Storm in his gear. And it also didn't seem, I found like on commentary, they didn't seem all that concerned about it. Like, they're like, oh my goodness, Lance Storm, must be Shane. And then they just were like, oh, no big deal. Like, they didn't seem very panicked about it.
Yeah, no, but I think even Paul was like with his gear on too, like. But I think like as it comes in, it's like, oh, it's something big's happening, JR. Paul really like is promoting it a little bit more, like, oh, something's happening, JR. That's what was good about Paul Heyman's color commentating skills.
Agree, but yeah, it happened, but it didn't seem like it didn't start to overtake the show. It was sort of just like a thing that happened. They're like, wow, that was crazy, must be Shade, and then like kind of kept on rolling.
Yeah. So now we have when we come back from commercial break, Lance Storm and Shane McMahon are leaving the building. And then we go to Vince McMahon's office. He's yelling at the security guards because they allowed a WCW competitor to enter on WWF territory, basically. So Vince McMahon threatens to fire the security guards if they let anyone else from WCW into a WWF show. Then Al Snow is at WWF New York to promote Tough Enough. Do you have any memories of watching Tough Enough? Like, were you into Tough Enough at all?
I do remember watching it, especially when it first came out, because I was at the point where I just consumed all WWF content that I could. And yeah, I always remember I thought it was kind of cool. I mean, I was younger, but I enjoyed it because I feel like too in those days, anything you could get that kind of showed you like the backstage workings of WWF, like I just ate that shit up as a kid. By this point, I would have been like 11, 12 years old. So like anything where I could see what how everything worked behind the scenes, and like Tough Enough kind of gave you a glimpse of that because it was kind of breaking kayfabe, showing you how they train and everything. So I was definitely digging it at this point.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well, especially like the first 3 seasons. Actually, even the 4th season, like when it's the Miz and Daniel Puder. I remember watching those too. I really wanted to see what Matt Capitelli could do in the ring, like when Tough Enough 3 came out. Maven was a fine choice to win the first Tough Enough, You could have gone with either one because Nowinski, for what he was worth, he was a really great star as well. Like, he seemed like to really like understand the ropes and like really like train at it too. So, good on Al Snow and WWF or WWE for coming up with this idea. Spike and Molly are backstage. They hate that their families are fighting. They kiss, and Kurt Angle interrupts, saying they shouldn't kiss because kissing will lead one thing to another, and they would make the 2 ugliest babies on the planet if they got together. This is so goofy, Kurt here.
Yeah, he's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Spike is so awkward too. Like he's like, don't disrespect my girlfriend, and they just get his ass beat.
Yeah, this is so cheesy. Like, even for like just like the storyline and stuff. Like, Molly, I like you. I like you too, Spike. And when we get into the ring, like with the Dudleys and the Hollies, like it's even worse.
Agree.
So Spike slaps Kurt and gets a beat down, leaving the Dudleys to come out because Molly go gets the Dudley boys. As they're walking, the Hollies Crash and Hardcore spot them. They beat them up. So basically, the Dudley boys get mad at Spike because they're like, "Well, why are you following? Why do you like her? She got us set up." It's like, no, she was coming to get you guys. Guy got beat by Kurt Angle. Well, the Hollies beat us up. So what do you want us to do? So they threatened to put Molly through a table.
Yeah, Spike gets a pretty good ass chewing by his brothers here.
Yep. Now we have Big Show versus Chris Jericho for the Hardcore title. Baseball slide to Big Show. Big Show punches the chair into Jericho's face and throws him into the steps. So keep in mind also that the Hardcore title is on the line. Also, Jericho's shot at the WWF title is on the line too. Jericho goes into the guardrail, a drop kick to the Big Show's knee. Big Show throws Jericho into a chair. Big Show misses a leg drop. A lot of trash can lid shots to Big Show. Jericho drop kicks the steel steps into the Big Show. A lion salt by Jericho for the win. I gave this matchup here 2 and 3/4 stars. A really good showing here by Jericho as well, especially in this hardcore title atmosphere too.
Yeah, I thought Jericho was great in this match. He takes some killer bumps, like getting dropped on the barricade. He gets kind of lawn darted into the corner. That was a nasty spill. And I think, like, you forget how good he is at being a babyface because we've seen him, especially in his WWE stuff. A lot of times he's a heel. So I was always a big fan of him early in WCW when he first debuted as a babyface. And you kind of forget how good he is at, like, in the face role here, like just taking these insane bumps, like beating the odds. I liked how he used his craftiness, like you said, kicking the chair into Big Show to get the win. Like, he just has to survive the giant long enough, and then he finally picks it up. But yeah, and I thought it was a lot more creative than you get with a lot of these hardcore matches. Like, I thought Jericho did some cool spots to kind of stop it from just being one of these hardcore matches where they just kind of hit each other's with trash cans like 12 times, and then that's the match. So yeah, I dug it. I'm with you. I thought especially Jericho was the highlight for me. So I went 2.5. So I'm right there with you.
Mm-hmm. Now we have Albert versus Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero tries to go on the offense, but is immediately stopped by Albert. A backbreaker and a gorilla press to Eddie. Eddie tries to do a crossbody, but is caught into the ring post. Eddie counters a power bomb. Lita comes out to distract Albert, which allows Eddie to get a roll up here. I went 1.25 here. A little short end of the match. Like Albert's strength. Lita coming out was hokey pokey. So like a hokey pokey finish, again, then Eddie just gets a surprise roll up here. But looks like, Lita has caught Eddie's mamacita eye.
Yes. But yeah, I'm with you. I went like 1.5 stars. Not that great. Albert just kind of tossed him around. And I agree. The distraction spot was a little weak. I think even JR kind of questioned it. Like, he was like, well, I guess it was a distraction. I don't know. Like, it wasn't, I don't know, they kind of fucked that up a little bit. But yeah, not the most amazing thing. Usually Eddie's a guy who will like turn these kind of nothing matches to give you something a little bit out of it. But I guess maybe he's not really hitting on all cylinders at this point, given that he's going to be out of the company soon. So yeah, a little bit of a weak showing here.
Yeah, so Eddie does get a win here though, so it's like he's trying to like be on the good side and not get fired here, or try and get like the heat off of him if he thinks that there is heat. So JR and Paul are talking about the Hollies versus the Dudleys tables matchup coming. And throughout the whole night, JR has been saying to Paul, we're going to meet the Undertaker's wife. But Undertaker is not at this show. So what is JR really talking about when all of a sudden a video of Undertaker's wife appears and it's filmed outside her house and she's combing her hair? This is the Undertaker's wife, Sarah. She's combing her hair.
Yes, with the distorted voice, the voice machine thing. I could see your wife, Taker. She's I'm looking at you in your house.
Yeah, call it the Great Value Darth Vader yes. Voice machine. Really creepy stuff here, huh, Jake?
Yes, definitely. And I think we all know how it plays out now, but I think at the time you would have been like, what the hell is it? Like, who is this? What is going on? Like,
who stalks a man's wife? Who does this?
Right. Yeah. So, but definitely intriguing. I mean, you want to know who it is.
Yeah. It's like, who's doing this, and it gets even like a little bit, he gets more on SmackDown too. So this whole stalking thing is in effect as well. Backstage, Vince McMahon has decided that he's going to give Chris Benoit the title shot. And, Jericho's like, oh, Chris, you deserve it. And as Vince McMahon goes, now, I'm going to hold my word to it, but I want to know, where did you guys get that footage? Come on, tell me where'd you got that footage. That was a really yes. funny line there. He's like, where did you get that? I want to know right now.
Yeah, that was awesome. But, and it makes sense, especially knowing, where they're going to go on SmackDown. I think this is the right move to let Benoit have the match.
Yeah. So Benoit versus Stone Cold in the main event tonight. Now we have the Dudleys versus the Hollies in a tables match. And you can see also here that the Dudleys are still injured as well from the TLC match too. It's like everyone is just wearing casts. We'll see it on SmackDown too with a couple other more superstars involved in that matchup here. Hollies go after the injured Dudleys. Hardcore tries to slam Devon into a table, but it's moved out of the way. Crash goes into the table that doesn't break. A what's up bomb to Hardcore. A drop kick into a table by Hardcore. Then basically just a 3D to Hardcore Holly into the table for the win. I gave this matchup a star and a half. Jake, it's short here, The Dudley Boys get the win, and it's more of like what happens afterwards too, So a short match that leads into something else.
Agree. It was just a backdrop for the Molly thing, like put Molly through Spike and Spike, quote unquote sacrificing himself. So that was really the whole point of the match. So I'm with you. I went a star and a half on it. It was a little goofy because it's like, is he really saving her? Because I can't imagine it hurts that much less because they just drop her on him. So I don't know if he's really helping her that much, but I know what they were going for. It's kind of to push the story along in the dissension between the Dudleys.
Yeah, as you said, the Dudley Boys want to put Molly through a table. Spike puts himself on the table and says, put me through it, don't put her. So what do? You put Molly Holly into Spike, into the table to make it look like that Molly Holly went through the table here. So a really goofy angle here, like you said, just to enhance this storyline. And as we come back from commercial break, basically, like, he's like, Molly! Like, Spike is just screaming out for Molly. Is she okay? And Molly's doing the same thing. Is Spike okay? Like, these are terrible actors and actresses.
Yeah,
like, doing a
Like, I get what
soap
they're
opera
going
thing.
for. They're kind of going for this like misfit romance thing. So I kind of get
Yeah.
it. Like, I could see where they're going. It could be charming, but I think it falls a little flat. It just comes off as a little awkward. Like, you don't really feel the sympathy that I think they want you to feel for them.
Yeah, and so like just like a bad little romance here, like a high school rejected high school movie teen film here.
Bad romance, as Lady Gaga would say.
Yeah, yeah. So now we have a recap of Triple H tearing his quadricep on the May 20th Monday Night Raw episode. He's having his knee looked at by Dr. Andrews. It is a huge tear that Dr. Andrews said. And he really wonders how Triple H finished the match. It is amazing how he did, because you see that Walls of Jericho on him, and that's gotta hurt. Like after he tears it too. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, especially on the announce table at like an awkward angle. Yeah, I mean, kudos to him. I mean, it does look painful. And this is like super detailed. Like, this was like a 10-minute like breakdown of all the, like, him at the doctor, so showing the surgery, the doctor talking about the surgery, Triple H talking about it, Stephanie like crying as she watches the surgery. Like, they were going all in on showing you. It wasn't like a quick like, hey, he's hurt, here you go. It was like detailed. Like, you could see them already trying to sow the seeds of like trying to make him kind of sympathetic, like already planning that out. But I thought it was actually pretty interesting though, for as long as it was. I was kind of interested in just seeing, them going through all of it. It was kind of fascinating.
Yeah, so like they do like the whole operation thing, and they're really playing off that Stephanie and Triple H are still like the on-screen couple here. Like, oh, I'm gonna be by your side when you get the surgery and stuff. So a little like foreshadowing basically as well, because like, off the record, they were a couple at the time. So like, it doesn't seem like Steph was in character at all. She was like being like herself, like, oh, this is my boyfriend really, and like, just be careful with him.
Right.
Yeah. So Triple H is going to be out for like 6 months. We know that really is like 8-month absence as well, like, so what he thought was like, he thought he was coming back in like maybe like October, like early November. And like, it turns out like, just hold him off until January, like, let's get this done. And we have the game return here.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have Stone Cold versus Chris Benoit for the WWF title in our main event. I found it really funny. Like, I think this was a rib on Hebner. Vince McMahon probably told Howard, you got to introduce Earl Hebner as the referee. When he does, Earl's like, Howard, what the hell are you doing? Why are you introducing me? Man, I don't want to be introduced. Because everyone remembers Montreal in 1997. So I think Howard played a rib on Earl Hebner here.
Yeah, definitely.
As he gets booed. Stone Cold goes for the injured ribs. Austin, what I noticed about this, Austin has gold knee pads.
I noticed that too. Yeah, the knee brace things were gold. I guess that was kind of just a little thing to go along with his heel character, like, I guess that he's a little more in with Vince and the corporate side now, maybe. That's how I took it.
Yeah, but I thought it was cool. Those are like gold knee pads.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So chops to Austin by Benoit. A crossface on Austin, but he gets to the ropes. Austin goes head first into the table. Benoit goes into the steps. A sharpshooter on Austin in the middle of the ring, gets to the ropes again. Austin slams Benoit's ribs into the guardrail and onto the table. So they are really playing off that Benoit's hurt from the TLC. It's really a nice touch of like showing the weakness on what can go from like what Austin can do to take out Benoit here.
Mm-hmm.
German suplexes to Austin. Austin tries to cover Benoit after a stunner, but Vince McMahon distracts the ref while Austin has the cover because he thinks Benoit is the one with the with the pin, but it's Austin as the ref is distracted. Benoit hits Austin with the title, covers him for a 2 count. Benoit gets the crossface, but Austin gets the ropes again. Stone Cold then applies the crossface to Benoit, and Vince McMahon rings the bell, declaring that Stone Cold is the winner by submission. I went 3 stars on this matchup. Really great effort by Chris Benoit, especially after getting all those like submissions. You thought that he was going to get Austin like not even close to the ropes and make him tap. But every time that the locks were applied to Austin, he always found a way to get to the rope, or Vince McMahon would distract the referee. But a really great effort here. I went 3 stars on this match, Jake. It was a really great match.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. I liked how Austin, like heel Austin here, is so like deliberate. Like he kind of reminded me of like a Brett or Flair, like how methodical he was working over the, like you say, going after the ribs and just picking Benoit apart. The brawling on the outside was real awesome, sloppy, like in a good way, just like throwing each other around. Every move I felt in this match like felt like impactful, like it really did. Like it felt like it meant something. Like they weren't just doing moves. Like they sold everything fantastically. And yeah, just a great physical matchup. Like Austin is just so good. He's so relentless. Like he never stops. Like he never stops to really go at the crowd or anything. He's just trying to decimate Benoit. And I thought, Benoit held his own, like you mentioned earlier, like as a guy who maybe hasn't been put in this spot yet. I think he didn't look out of place. Like he held his own. And looked awesome in it too. So the finish was a little goofy. They just can't help themselves sometimes. Like they got to do, like in Canada, they have to do the fucking screw job stuff every single time, no matter what. But I did like that it leaves the door open to kind of come back to it, as we'll see on SmackDown. But I went 3.5. Yeah, an awesome main event for Raw.
Yeah, it really was. But we're not done yet. As Mr. McMahon and Stone Cold are beating down Chris Benoit after this match, Chris Jericho comes out, and Jericho and Benoit beat down on Austin and McMahon. Chris Benoit has Mr. McMahon locked in the crossface, and the walls of Jericho is applied to Austin as they're both tapping out here. And that's how we end the show, with Benoit and Jericho standing tall against Stone Cold and Mr. McMahon. A really great ending. I think they'd set the fans home happy here.
Yep, perfect way to end it for the Canadian fans. After Benoit gets screwed, like you said, send them home happy, seeing the two heels get locked into submissions. Agree?
Before we jump to SmackDown, Jake, let me just ask, do you think Lance Storm was the right guy to start the invasion?
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it all just depends on where you go with it. Like, I think, so obviously, like, Lance Storm is not, he's not this megastar or something. But I think presented in the right way, you could probably elevate him. It's hard to say because I know they had a little bit, they were limited in their options, right? Like you mentioned earlier, it's not like they had the cream of the crop WCW guys to choose from. Some would argue like the perfect invaders have been here for a year already. Like the guy we just saw, like Benoit and Eddie and all, like those are kind of like would have been the guys maybe you wanted to invade, but they're already been in WWF for a little while at this point. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, do I think Storm is the best choice? Probably not, but I don't know how many options they really had, and I think you could elevate them if you presented them in the right way. What do you think, Gruney?
I think there's no right or wrong answer. You could have taken like the star that you did, like one of the stars that you had and invaded that, like, had like a bigger star invade, like for who or what you had, but if you want to just introduce, like make a little bit of noise, then Lance Storm is your guy. He's small. He's not enough to like get the crowd screaming like, oh man, WCW invaded, but it's like your head turns. It's like, hey, you might want to check this out here. WCW guys are starting to show up. Who's going to come next? So I think it was more of the head nod, like, Okay, let's turn to the left here and see what happens now,
Right, I agree, because it's obvious they're not trying to, with the stuff they got going with Austin, they're not trying to make this WCW invasion immediately like the biggest thing happening.
Yeah, no, I think it's I feel like it's the right small step, like introduce some of the,
Mhm.
not lesser talent, but like, like the
Yeah,
the mid card guys, like the lower mid card guys, like who were on like kicking off Nitro or in like the third or fourth match, before like the huge 2-3 main event matches on Nitro as well.
agree.
So Jake, on that note, we are going to go to WWF SmackDown on May 31st. We're still in Canada as we are in Edmonton, Alberta, Chris Benoit's hometown. Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit both come to the ring. They say they both enjoyed kicking Mr. McMahon and Stone Cold's asses. They offer a challenge to Stone Cold and Mr. McMahon. They say that they will put the tag team titles on the line if Stone Cold and Mr. McMahon form a tag team, just so that Benoit and Jericho can kick both their asses, because they're confident they can retain against Stone Cold and Mr. McMahon. Mr. McMahon comes out and he says that is not going to happen. Chris Benoit goes over the history of, the Oilers, Edmonton Oilers winning the Stanley Cup. I forget what else he said. I knew he said something about Wayne Gretzky and Mario. I forget what his name was. I'm sorry.
Mario Lemieux.
Yeah.
Mario Lemieux.
So he says that Mr. McMahon comes out and he says, "While I would like to, take the tag titles away from you, that is not going to happen tonight. I gave Stone Cold Steve Austin the night out, the night off. Well, after Benoit demands a rematch, and he puts Chris Jericho in a match against Kurt Angle as well. But Stone Cold defies Mr. McMahon and comes out to the ring. And surprisingly, Jake, he gives Benoit a rematch here. So they are really shining their light on Chris Benoit a little bit here, saying, let's see what you got. Can you be that next guy to maybe get over the hump and be featured in main event spot matches? Can you get away from the Intercontinental belt and make your way towards the heavyweight championship belt here? What did you think of this, Jake?
Yeah, I agree. Continue what they did on Raw, and I'm sure being in Canada helps. But yeah, definitely a big spot for these two guys. And it was a little strange to me seeing Benoit as like the even when he's been a face, this is not really the kind of baby face he's been, like out there doing the getting the cheap pops, like talking about the the home sports teams and all that kind of stuff. So that was a little odd.
Even
like even
smiling.
And him doing like a long opening show promo was strange. Like even as a face, he's normally just seen as kind of a more, I don't know how you would say it, like not that kind of baby face. That was a little odd. I don't know if it really plays to his strengths that much, but again, they're in his hometown, so they're kind of milking it for what it is. I like Vince immediately shitting on the idea of the tag match, like just completely like non-starter, was kind of funny. And yeah, I love Austin here. I think this heel character is so good. Like he's so paranoid, like that Vince doesn't believe in him. Like he's constantly just trying to validate himself, like always, and just all these little things, like the way he speaks is a little more formal, or like you could tell he's trying to be more formal, like he's a bigger deal now, like speaking a little more proper. All the reassuring of himself is so good. He buries the hockey stuff, which is really funny. Like I don't give a shit about hockey. Was awesome. So it's a good kind of tension too between him and Vince, that they're kind of together, but it's almost like Vince is not sure if he can because the whole point of this is like, okay, he got, he helped Stone Cold win the title, but now it's like, can he control this like insane man kind of thing?
Yeah. But very good stuff here by Stone Cold, like the promo. I am a champion of champions. I am the World Wrestling Federation champion. I will defend my title each night in and night out.
Right.
Yeah, so him just like saying like I feel like he's sounding desperate, but he's like, you know what? I am the champion. I will beat your ass, you know. So I don't think you can beat me because I will stop a mud hole in your ass. So now we have Kane versus Edge. The Intercontinental title is on the line here. You see here also that Edge is also still hurt from the TLC match last Thursday, and they say that Christian got the worst of it between all the contenders. Christian's going to be out for like a little bit. Like he'll return, I think, like the next Monday, but he needs some more time to heal as well. A big boot and a backdrop to Edge, clothesline by Kane, a missile drop kick to Kane by Edge, a sidewalk slam to Edge, a spear by Edge for a 2 count, and then out of nowhere, really a power bomb by Kane for the win. Nice little retaining title moment here, like trying to get Edge also to that spot. But this matchup was really, really short. I would say I would go a star and 3/4 here. Like, you're seeing like Kane just be this monster, but Edge really doesn't get a whole lot of offense in as well.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a pretty standard kind of TV, like a title defense on a TV show. Just a quick little match. They kind of go through. No, wasn't really any great spots I thought in here. Just it was slow and clunky at times, but it was fine. Like this, Kane got his shit in and won the match, and they kind of played up the Edge's injured stuff, but it really didn't play much of a factor in the match. Like it wasn't like Kane was working over anything particular. So I kind of just went a good old fashioned 2 on it. Just kind of a standard TV match here. Not a whole lot more going on.
Yeah. Backstage, the Dudley Boys keep Spike behind. They are leaving Spike behind because they don't want him interfering in their business with the Hollies. We have Bubba Ray versus Hardcore Holly coming up next. A backdrop by Bubba. Bubba goes, you hit the Bubba bomb to Hardcore. Crash goes into the steel post. Hardcore misses a dive. Bubba lands on Hardcore for a 2 count. Bubba tries to slam Hardcore back into the ring, but Crash trips Bubba and holds on to his feet so Hardcore can get the pin. A little hokey pokey finish there, but a little bit interesting, like how the Hollies pulled it off. It's cool. Crash trips Bubba, and he holds on to Bubba's feet so Bubba can't kick out. So the Hollies pick up the win. I went a 2 stars on this match. It's a match, but it was kind of fun and interesting. Bubba getting in some shots, Hardcore getting in some shots here. A small good match, but a really good surprise ending where Bubba gets his feet held down.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit odd to do this after the tables match. It's a little weird because it seems a bit flat after you just saw them do the, with more of the hardcore style. But it's kind of like each team just kind of had their shine segment, and then we just went to the finish with the cheating. I did think it was cool that even if I don't think the Spike angle is the greatest thing ever, I did like that they put over they kind of cost themselves by telling Spike not to help them, because if Spike would have been there, he might have been able to prevent. If he's supporting them on the outside, maybe he could stop the Hollies from pulling this in the finish. So I did like that they kind of showed that, kind of pushing that, maybe they're screwing themselves by ostracizing Spike. So I thought that was a good little touch to this. But I'm with you. I would like 2 on it.
Oh, that's a good point, Jake. I didn't realize that that actually cost them that Spike was in the back. I just thought they were doing it because they thought that maybe Spike would be the one to cost them because he likes Molly. That was my take on it.
Right. Yeah, I just thought it was another little angle to turn on this. Like maybe they do need Spike and they need to let up on him.
Yep. William Regal is backstage and tells Mr. McMahon that Shane McMahon's limo is driving around the parking lot. It's the WCW one limo, like WCW, and the number 1 on the license plate. We all know WCW didn't win. So then we have Coach and Spike backstage, a recap of Molly going through the table. Spike says Molly is at home, and Spike tells Molly that he really likes her. So we're still continuing this Molly Holly and Spike Dudley, romance here.
So cheesy.
Yeah.
So corny. Like, I think they think it's like endearing, or like we're gonna feel for Spike, but it just comes off as like kind of awkward.
Yeah. Now we have a recap of the video of Undertaker's wife again, like creepiness, and someone is stalking the Undertaker's wife. Kurt Angle is backstage. Say they will rename Gretzky Boulevard to Angle Boulevard after he wins his match against Chris Jericho tonight. He also dares Shane McMahon to interfere in his match. So he's basically like giving Shane McMahon a free pass to come out and fight.
Okay.
I thought it was kind of funny. I was like, they're going to rename it to Angle Boulevard here.
Yeah, I liked his Ben Johnson shade too. Like the line about the people in Canada are not used to a real gold medalist because all they have is Ben Johnson, who's a cheater. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I remember that too. He got like stripped his 3rd place medal, for real like substance abuse. Yeah, it was like substance issues.
Right. So just good dickhead Angle stuff.
Yeah. So now we have Chris Jericho versus Kurt Angle. A fireman's carried by Kurt, arm dragged by Jericho. Angle goes into the steel post. Chris Jericho misses the missile dropkick. A German suplex countered by Jericho for a 2 count. The walls of Jericho to Kurt Angle. The Jericho misses the lion salt into an ankle lock. And then Shane McMahon comes out to interfere, but he gets dragged out by security. And all of a sudden, Spike Dudley comes in while the ref is dealing with Shane McMahon's security. Spike Dudley comes in and gives Kurt Angle the Dudley dog, and Chris Jericho covers him for a 3 count. I went 3 stars on this match. I enjoyed it, especially like the ending where it's like, Shane McMahon, is trying to interfere again and, getting dragged out by security. But Spike getting his revenge and costing Angle the match was like probably the best part. It's like, wait a second, Spike Dudley's here, and he just Dudley dogs Kurt Angle, and Jericho gets the win. What did you think, Jake?
Yeah, I dug this match. I went 2 3/4. These guys obviously have some good chemistry. Again, I love Jericho as a face here. Like he has so much fire. He comes out with all this offense. He has all these cool ways of like working it in, and I kind of like that. Like basically, you almost feel like Jericho should be winning, but Angle keeps countering everything that he has to throw at him. So just a good dynamic between those two. And I thought it was interesting to have Kurt like have the issue, going after Shane and everything, because it kind of throws like Kurt's a heel, then you get the WCW guys. It's kind of throws this chaos in. Now we'll ask you, Gruney, as we go through this invasion thing. Were you surprised that it was Spike here that makes a run in? Like it almost seems like you would have Storm, or maybe this would be a chance to introduce somebody else as part of the invasion thing, or just reinforce the Storm stuff from Raw. Were you surprised that it seemed kind of random that it was Spike, or am I missing something?
Well, I think it's just payback from that beatdown that Spike got from Angle on Raw. But
Gotcha.
You see where your point is, though, is that you could have had maybe like another WCW star come in and kick Kurt Angle's butt too, because Vince McMahon is like, I can't have another WCW guy come in on Raw with Lance Storm,
Mm-hmm.
Or you could have had Lance Storm just do it again, and Vince be like, what is going on, how are they getting
right,
into
it just
the
seems
buildings?
Right, if you're going to have Shane there anyway, it seems like you would kind of tie it into that. But yeah, I don't know, just it wasn't like that. But it's not like I was thought it was horrible. I was just kind of surprised. Like, you see Shane at this point, and I guess you're thinking like, well, it's going to be Storm or somebody else now, since they're kind of getting this in motion. So,
Yep. And then we have, so then backstage, we have Kurt Angle barges into Regal's office. He challenges Shane McMahon to a match at King of the Ring. And he beats up to Jerry and tells him to stop bowing. So, so he basically just like is so angry. He challenges challenges Shane McMahon to a match, and he just beats the crap out of Tajiri here. Funny thing though, like Tajiri and the bowing.
yeah, I enjoyed too that like Regal doesn't even really try and help him. He just like throws his hands like, hey, that's my houseboy.
Yeah, he's like, I know. I'm sorry. So now we have Raven versus Rhino for the hardcore title. They're continuing their feud. Like Raven's been in now the hardcore title, with Rhino here and there, throughout the months. Clothesline by Raven. Trash can shots to Rhino. Rhino covers Raven, but Rhino tries to cover Raven, but he gets hit by a trash lid. Rhino goes for a gore, but he goes right into the trash can as well. So he gores it, and he just gets stuck in the trash can and hits it. A slingshot, a kitchen sink shot to Rhino. Rhino slams Raven into the table, and that's how he gets the win. I went 2.5 here. Good little nice little hardcore spot match. Especially bringing in the kitchen sink.
Yeah, I went 2 on it. I thought it was pretty fun. You kind of knew something was up whenever he set up the trash can for, like, he just, instead of putting it sideways, he puts it with the opening sticking out. So you're like, all right, well, obviously that's going to lead to something. But it was a cool spot. I enjoyed the kitchen sink. It was a little stiffer than you expect from some of these. I mean, these guys obviously have the ECW pedigree, so they kind of know how to do this style. And so I thought it was fun for that. Like I always like anytime they could just move past as long as it's better than just two guys just kind of lazily hitting each other with weapons and they just work in some spots, I'm cool with these hardcore matches. So I went to perfectly fine. Good match for, again, always like a good title defense for our champion. So a good little TV title defense for Rhino here.
Yeah. Backstage, Mr. McMahon asked Stone Cold to reconsider putting the title on the line. And this is where the Austin paranoia starts. Like, nobody has confidence that he can beat Chris Benoit here tonight. Even Deborah doesn't have confidence in me, like, what's up? Like, why don't you think I can win, Vince? And Vince is really concerned for his champion, and Stone Cold's like, you think I'm afraid? You think I'm gonna lose? And,
I love the Deborah stuff too, because he's so she's looking at him like, I literally have said nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, he's obviously like an insane person. It's so good. Like at least Vince has actually said something that make it seem like he's concerned, and then all of a sudden he just turns on Deborah's like, hey, look at you with your striped shirt. You don't think I can do it either?
And she's like, huh? Like, what?
Right.
So then we go to Stephanie McMahon. She's I don't know if she's at I think she's at the hospital, they're playing it off like she's waiting for Triple H to come out of surgery, I think. And she is really mad that Stone Cold said the reason that they lost because Triple H is selfish. And she's upset, and because Triple H continued that match with a torn quadriceps, and Stone Cold's up fine and healthy, and he's the WWE champion. And so Stephanie McMahon says that there'll be vengeance on Stone Cold when Triple H comes back. This really doesn't lead to anything because Stephanie McMahon is really not on TV until July, basically. So I guess a little foreshadow, for when the game does return. But, the 2-man power trip is over, and Stephanie McMahon, hates Stone Cold again.
Yeah, it almost makes you wonder if they just wanted to sow the seed just in case when Triple H got back that they wanted him to go back to feuding with Austin, kind of going back to early '01. But I think probably like you mentioned earlier, I think the injury ends up taking, like they may be thinking if he's back in a few months, like you said, like September, October or something, 4 or 5 months. But I think it takes a little longer. By the time he gets back, this ship has kind of sailed. But I get what they're doing. It doesn't hurt. I mean, it always leaves them the option if they wanted to roll with this when Triple H returns.
Yep. So now we have again so it's a 6-man tag team matchup this time. Hardy Boys and Eddie Guerrero versus X Factor. Roll up for a 2 by Matt. Blind tag by Eddie, so he basically like blinded like Matt Hardy by like tagging him. And then like baseball slides by Justin. Double team moves to Eddie. A tilt-a-whirl backbreaker to X-Pac. Jeff gets slammed into the guardrail by Albert. And then like Albert gets throws him into like the post too. A tornado DDT by Matt. Eddie gets tossed out by Albert. Matt goes up to the top rope, but is distracted when Lita is seen holding like Eddie, like making sure that Eddie is okay. And then Eddie goes up, and then Albert picks up Matt Hardy for the Baldo bomb, and he gets the win. I gave this matchup 2 stars. 2 stars. It was a good match. Like trying to really like keep this feud going. Like the Hardy Boys and Eddie Guerrero versus X Factor. Really good showing by Albert here. Picking up the win for X Factor. I think they were really trying to plant the seed of like maybe a European title match down the line for Matt Hardy versus Eddie Guerrero, that Eddie could turn Lita against the Hardy Boys and have her become his new mamacita.
Right. Yeah, it was kind of just a reason to get all these guys on the show for a few minutes. Like it was just the 6-man especially, I don't think they got enough time to really build a whole lot to get a whole lot of stuff in, but they all kind of got a second to shine. The Hardys are super over, so I see why they want to get them on TV. And like you said, just to keep this in everyone's mind, it's interesting for me to go back as somebody who's doing the podcast on the Ruthless Aggression and the brand split stuff, where the 2 shows have different guys. It's interesting to go back to this era of SmackDown where they're kind of, you're seeing the same guys and you kind of just run them out for it. Like SmackDown is almost just kind of rolls with whatever Raw's doing. Like we saw a little bit of this on Raw, so they want to follow it up with something similar on SmackDown, maybe in case you didn't see Raw or something like that. So you kind of getting that. So it just kind of pushes along what we saw in Raw. But I'm with you. I went 2 1/4, same ballpark on this. Just kind of a solid match, but nothing really spectacular, nothing too memorable.
Yep. So then, as Taz and as Michael Cole and Taz are talking about tonight's main event, another video of Sarah appears, but this time The Undertaker is with her, and they're writing ATV, so it's like, this is The Undertaker's wife, Sarah. But now The Undertaker is with Sarah. They're having fun. They're going out for a ride.
Right. So very good hiding to not be seen. To not be seen like out the open like that.
Yeah. Very good hiding spots too. Like maybe he was hiding the hay barrel or something on the farm.
Ghillie suit on, yeah.
So our main event is from Monday Night Raw. It's the same on this one. It is Chris Benoit versus Stone Cold. However, this time, the WWF title is still on the line, but Vince McMahon is now the special enforcer. So to add leverage to Benoit trying to get the title, he has to go through Vince McMahon enforcing the match as well. Let's see. Benoit goes after Austin, stomps Austin in the corner. A swinging neck breaker by Austin. Benoit gets the crossface on, but Austin gets the ropes. Benoit is beating up Austin on the outside. Benoit pushes Austin into the referee. DDT onto the title by Benoit. A diving headbutt into the title. A diving headbutt into the title from Austin. So Austin moves out of the way, and then Benoit eats the title belt. Benoit kicks out. Austin applies the sharpshooter, but it's reversed. And then Austin puts Benoit back into the sharpshooter. It is reversed again. Austin gets the ropes this time, though. A low blow by Austin. A superplex by Benoit. Austin slams Benoit's ribs into the table. Slams Benoit into the steps as well. Benoit tries to counter, but Austin hits a spine buster. Austin applies the Boston Crab, but Benoit gets the ropes. German suplexes to Austin. Austin shoves Benoit shoves Austin into Mr. McMahon. Benoit hits McMahon with a chair, but then Austin gets the cover on Benoit with the tights. So Austin covers Benoit, grabs the tights, and gets the pin here. I went 3.5 stars on this. Another really good solid matchup here. I went up just above what I went on Monday Night Raw because, just like Benoit giving up all of his energy, getting hit in the ribs so many times, the back and forth with the sharpshooter, and every time Benoit applies a submission move, Austin gets the ropes. So just a really great matchup here. And again, Benoit looked like he was so desperately tired, after getting hurt in the ribs. So 3.5 for me.
Yeah, this ruled. It was a great follow-up to the Raw match. And like you said, kind of stepped it up a little bit. The physicality's still there. I like how they kind of flipped it from the last one. You almost think, okay, so Benoit's so weak and Austin's going to immediately go after him, but it's actually Benoit who gets the early. You could tell he's kind of fired up by the home crowd, and he gets the early advantage, dominating. And he even gets a crossface. I love the way they worked the submissions in the middle of the match and kind of jockey for position. The stuff on the outside, Benoit took a brutal bump on the announce table. Like I said, everything in this match just looked legit. It was stiff as fuck. And I like the stuff with Vince too, because I like that he wasn't the ref, which I think was a good call by them. He's out there and he's a factor, but he's not the ref, which was good. You could tell the whole time he's on edge because he doesn't really know what to do, because he doesn't want to interfere too much, because then he's worried, am I going to piss Austin off, because he's already angry that he thinks that I can't do this. So he's on edge the whole time. Do I help? Do I not help? So that was kind of good and add some drama. The selling from Austin was great. He really made you believe that Benoit had a shot at pulling this out. I think in the end of the match, when Benoit's hitting those Germans, you're thinking, could they pull the trigger here and just do, even if not long term, do they just do this for the hometown pop, and maybe Austin wins it back the next week or something? Who knows? But they did a good job of making you believe it was possible between how fired up Benoit was and how Austin was selling. I thought they sold that spectacularly. And like you said, I just thought both guys looked completely exhausted by the end. Benoit was spit, and he kind of lets his emotions get the best of him a bit, and starts worrying about Vince. And Vince takes a beating with the chair. Benoit wears him out with the chair, just crushes him 5 times with the chair. But that ends up costing him. Like you said, I just thought both guys really looked spent by the end. It's just an awesome 2-match series. If you haven't watched this in a while, anybody who's listening, definitely go back and watch these 2 matches back to back. I think they go together really well. But I'm with you. I stepped it up from what I gave the Raw match. I ended up going 4 stars on it. This is, this whole week between these 2 guys, it's such a cool matchup too. It's not one that I think is maybe one you always would think of. I think it is. This whole series these matches are remembered. But it is just kind of an interesting matchup. It's not maybe the first thing you think of as Austin opponents is Benoit. So, yeah, just awesome stuff to close the show out here. And the crowd, you get the huge heel heat for these two. And yeah, and going back to what we said from the beginning, I think between these two shows, it's definitely elevated Benoit up to this. Like, he does not look like he's out of place.
No, he does not. Well, Jake, that's going to wrap it up for our shows here. But a really good showing and like a good little I would say it's an okay start to the WCW invasion. Not really like, oh my god, it's a big bang, but just that little like head nod, like, oh, this guy's not on WWF. Like, he's not a WWF superstar. Like, oh, here comes this WCW guys, like, I thought they went out of business, and I thought they were no more. And so I think maybe like it got people like calling up and being like, hey, you should watch Monday Night Raw. WCW stars, I think, are starting to interfere, and I think something big's going to happen. So it was a good start, and really the main focus is basically on Chris Benoit and Stone Cold. Even Jericho is still in the mix as well. So a good little start to this invasion here, and more to come.
Yeah, I thought it was a decent one too, because again, it's not like they don't have anything going on and they're desperate for a big angle. Like, you have Austin as a heel, he's killing it. You have Jericho and Benoit being elevated. You got some good stuff on the undercard. Like, it's not like they're desperate for something. So I think it makes sense to not immediately let it take over the show. So yeah, I'm with you. Just a little sprinkle, just to light the fuse.
Yeah. Well, Jake, before we get out of here, do you have anything that you want to plug and lead the people of the nation, Place to Be Nation to?
Yeah, so of course on the North-South Connection, you mentioned I do the Ruthlessly Aggressive podcast, pretty much following, doing the era that follows this one, the Ruthless Aggression era. Just did WrestleMania 19, so some would say that's kind of capping off the Attitude Era. So got that going on here in the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed. I do YouTube roulette with the guys, and we do watch for a few random matches and kind of live watch them and run our mouths during that. Do Highway to the Impact Zone, going through TNA in the Impact era. We're into 2006 at this point. And and of course PTB NXT is always coming out. We try and get that out about every month. So me, Jenny, and Tim still have that going. So plenty of things if you would like to hear me talk about wrestling.
Yeah, a lot of wrestling content on the Place to Be, and like on the pop feed and the Jenny position. Everything is coming together and smooth sailing on the Place to Be Wrestling networks, and we're looking forward to like all the new content that is coming out as well. As for me, by the time this drops, I was the most recent guest on, you heard about Pluto on the Jenny position over on the North-South Connection. We watched 2 episodes of Legends of the Hidden Temple from Nickelodeon. I introduced Jenny to that show.
Yeah.
And we were basically tooling on the kids, who are really trying to be athletic and do all these challenges, and they're really confused during the temple runs. And I also gave Jenny a crash course in Nickelodeon game show history too, because she's not really familiar with Nickelodeon product as well. So I gave her a crash course. And also a new episode of Extreme Resurrection just dropped, where me and Steve Riddle, we go through ECW on Sci-Fi from 2006 and 2010. We're right on the road to WrestleMania 23, where the Battle of the Billionaires is taking place. Bobby Lashley is representing Donald Trump, and Umaga is representing Vince McMahon. And also the ECW originals, Tommy Dreamer, Sandman, Rob Van Dam, and Sabu are taking on the new breed, Elijah Burke, Matt Stryker, Marcus Corvan, and Kevin Thorne in an ECW WrestleMania 23 tag team matchup. So, those matches are shows are getting better as we're moving along to WrestleMania 23. And also you can find me on Twitter at Gruney316, Gruney 316. Well, that's going to do it here from the Nation Invasion. I would like to thank my guest, Mr. Jacob Williams, for coming on. I will be back in a month, and I will have a new guest to cover on as the invasion continues. Thanks, Jake.